Hey there, I'm an animated Connor Walsh, which is kind of ironic because people say I'm pretty animated in real life. Anyway, welcome to Walsh Wednesday, my new/old podcast. Let me explain. Back in high school in 2013, I was pressured by some friends to do an impromptu solo acoustic performance in my cafeteria. Believe it or not, people really took to it. And it turned into a monthly musical series I did through the rest of high school. Who said High School Musical wasn't realistic? By college, I turned Walsh Wednesday into a web series, focusing on interviews surrounding community events, charities, and local entertainment in the Hudson Valley and capital regions of New York. Walsh Wednesday spawned several spin-offs such as the Walsh Wednesday Concert Series, Walsh Wednesday Spotlights, and Walsh Wednesday The Reflective Series before its hiatus in 2021. After that, I spent the last 3 years working in radio, honing my craft, conducting unbelievable interviews, traveling to fascinating places, attending mind-blowing events, and meeting some of my personal heroes. Now, with the help of some awesome people I've met along the way, I'm bringing Walsh Wednesday back bigger and better than ever. Let's stay curious, keep an open mind, and as always, I'm glad we get to spend some time. Welcome to Walsh Wednesday. On this week's episode, we're speaking with owner and founder of Locks That Rock Hair Design, along with being the producer for The Lifted Project and Choices, a rock musical, Karen Catalano. After that, we're speaking to the guys from the Room 215 podcast, Nick Rivera, Isaiah Vallejos, and Michael Trageser. And lastly, from Kansas State University, we have Harvey Burns. Special thanks to Impact PR and Communications, Teespring, Walsh Valuation, and IABLE Board 114. Typically, this would be the part of the intro where I would say, on with the show. But I have something really important to share. It's time for the Walsh Wednesday Fund Drive. After over 3 years of hiatus, Walsh Wednesday is back. And I'm looking to make this into a legitimate business, offering high-quality production and meaningful segments that you're going to love spending some time with again and again. Of course, thank you to everyone who's been here for the first 10 episodes of the revival. I feel truly blessed to have been able to speak with the first 24 guests. And I'm excited for what's to come. Starting a business is not cheap. By becoming a donor, you're investing in grassroots community outreach, arts and entertainment, up-and-coming creators, local businesses, regional and national charities, plus important causes. To help elevate Walsh Wednesday, I kindly encourage you to become a donor on our GoFundMe page. To donate, please visit gofundme.com/f/Walsh Wednesday. Our goal is to raise $10,000. It's hefty, I know, but I have a lot of faith in this, and I hope you do too. Not to mention, if you have a business or organization that wants to advertise through Walsh Wednesday and you want to sponsor a number of episodes, you can contact Connor at cmjwentertainment.com and write Walsh Wednesday Fund Drive in the subject of the email, and I'd be happy to work with you. But wait, there's more. Both Walsh Wednesday and myself have been nominated for Hudson Valley Magazine's Best of Hudson Valley 2025 Awards. Walsh Wednesday is up for Best Local Podcast, while I'm currently in the running for Best Male Vocalist, Best Singer, and Best Radio DJ. In order to vote, go to bestof.hvmag.com. It's an honor to be nominated along with so many great artists, public figures, and Hudson Valley organizations. I feel truly blessed to have gotten these nominations, so thank you to everyone out there. You currently have until 5 p.m. on April 6th to vote. Thank you to everybody who has helped elevate Walsh Wednesday this year, and thank you for your donation. Okay, now with all that being said, on with the show. Hey there, and welcome back to Walsh Wednesday. As always, I'm Connor Walsh, your host, and I am so excited for this episode. I'm so excited to have you in. It's taken a few scheduling changes to make it happen. I feel so sorry for the first time. I gave her the wrong date the first day, but we finally got her in, and this is her time to shine. So we have a number of things to talk about. She's the owner of Locks That Rock Hair Design. She's the producer of The Lifted Project. We spoke to John Burton last week, so we get her perspective of it all this week. But also she's a part of Choices, a rock opera, and we got so many cool things to talk about with that because, as you said before we got on the mic, it's heading Off-Broadway now.
Absolutely.
Oh, so we got a lot to get into. So with us today, we have a good friend, Karen Catalano. Karen, how are you?
Thank you very much for having me, Connor.
Absolutely. So, gosh, we have so much to really get into, of course, but, might as well just start, your home base with Locks That Rock. How long have you been owning your own hair design salon, and what's it been like recently? Because I know I was collabing with Q29 Studios around the same time you're collaborating with QT9 Studios.
Yes.
So that whole film shoot I got to kind of witness, and that was impressive to see everybody built up and talk about the platform. So how's things going with that?
Actually, everything is great. Lox at Rock was born 33 years ago, 1991. It was actually built around the rock and roll scene back in the day with all the guys with all the long hair. And I have survived the times, ever evolving Q29.
Yep.
My buddy Bryce, so happy to shoot those videos. I've never done anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, so learning that whole platform of all of that was quite interesting. I was a little nervous, actually, to tell you.
No, you were fine. And then you had a number of other people there in your studio, and they were able to tell their stories of how they found you, you found them, and how you guys have been able to collaborate together. And I thought that was super unique.
Right. So my business model this year was to show people the years of Lox at Rock hair design, and also how these people came into my life, you know, their journey, their story. What is it that makes people want to come to them? Or, you know, obviously, you know me, I am the queen of crazy. So, you know, I attract exactly what I am. And, you know, I've just been very lucky to have a actually 44-year career.
God bless. Congrats.
Yes, starting with the great Vincent Vitale, whom I always say from Hair Hut was my mentor. And that's where I started. And I love for my staff to tell their journey and tell their stories of where they came from.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important.
It is important because it's one thing that I've always found about like getting my haircut done. You know, there's the trust with the people that I'm working with. And I've had like 2 primary people that I've gone to all my life. And the camaraderie and the stories that we share and getting to know each other. So to be able to tell those stories and for the community to understand where everybody's coming from, I think that's great.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when I started Lox at Rock, it was all men in bands, and I was the queen of rock and long hair. And if you had long hair, which you've seen in my video, you know, people will come in and say, "Wait, you're her? You don't have any hair." And my hair's like down to my waist.
Yep.
And I just became known as the, you know, the hair cutter, the rock and roll hair cutter. Thank you, Jamie Gilroy, formerly of SATO. Thank you for that, which has stuck for 44 years.
And it's worked. So I got to ask then, which love came first, the love of rock and roll or the love for hair design?
So I started my career, you know, and then I dated my first rocker boyfriend, and I got tired of watching him and said, well, let me do the door and let me do this and let me do that. And I am literally self-taught in the music world. My mentor was the late John Regan, who I did a lot of collaborations with, a lot of work with. I did his hair, I think for 35 years, John and I were together. I mean, starting all the way from Frampton to Ace to whatever he was involved in. I was lucky enough to be a big part of that. And then I evolved into self-taught, just business manager and booking bands, and I managed my own band for 20 years.
No, incredible. And of course, again, something we were talking about before we got on the mic, your collaboration with The Chance, of course, rest in peace, The Chance and everything, which is still so odd that we didn't cross paths back in that day, since I played there a decent amount and you were working there a decent amount. So
I became Frankie's caterer. Frank Pallett and Carolyn Pallett were my dear friends. I was lucky enough to be called their sister. And we, you know, Frankie and I booked bands together. So he had Big Guns. I had Rock Alley. We ran the circuit. And then when he bought the club, you know, I was actually jack of all trades. If he needed a caterer, it was a caterer. I had gotten into that a little bit. You know, doing the door, here, count money, you know, whatever he needed, I was there because I was always there.
Yeah.
That was my home. You know, that was home base. That was, you know, where we all went.
Yeah.
It's a very large, you know, loss and void in a lot of our lives.
Absolutely. You know, funny enough, obviously I have many good memories playing there, but just seeing shows in general, some of my favorite and first major concerts were there at The Chance.
Yeah.
Saw Lou Gramm of Foreigner there. That was phenomenal. Buck Cherry one time. That was a huge concert. Actually, one of their openers, Royal Bliss. First time that I ever heard of Royal Bliss. I've been a lifelong fan ever since that concert.
That's great. Well,
I got to meet him.
I go all the way back to Bon Jovi at 12:30, you know.
I would love to have seen Bon Jovi.
I mentioned my friend Jamie Gilroy. I was on his shoulders when Ozzy showed up and played. One of my favorite shows ever, and this was before I worked there, was Cyndi Lauper. You know, Bad English. I mean, we saw everything that you could imagine, even before before I was even working there or was a part of it. So I knew that club inside and out.
Absolutely. And just in the number of capacities that you were a part of it, as you said, jack of all trades. I had local engineer, producer, musician on recently, TJ Burns. We were talking about the concept of jack of all trades. He didn't know the full quote. Do you know the full quote? Jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. That second half, people always tend to forget.
Yeah, that's a great quote. Because that's, if you spoke to John Burton, that's who I am. I am the master of all of them.
Absolutely. And speaking of John, we had John on last week, so this is probably a good segue to talk about the Lifted Project. Lifted Project going on Sunday, April 6th.
Yes.
And
Rhinebeck
it's
Playhouse.
Amazing.
Performing Arts Center. Wonderful theater. Shout out to Kerry, who donated the theater to us. I am so thankful because I'm involved in another project which you and I are going to talk about, Choices of Rock Opera. Yes. We were actually wanting to do a show there. Mm-hmm. And in the midst of all of it, I said, hey, Kerry, how you feel about? And we were granted the theater for the day. So very, very blessed and very thankful for her.
Oh my God. So good. It's such an amazing venue here in the Hudson Valley.
Yes.
I've been a part of it in small ways over the years. And then actually one of my buddies, he's about to do Romeo and Juliet in a couple of weeks. He's Romeo. Oh, nice. So I'm excited for him. I played Romeo a few years ago. So he was asking me tips. It's like, what do you think? It was like, dude, I was 19 when I played Romeo. You're 26. So kind of different stages in life. Absolutely. And everything.
Absolutely.
But it is such a wonderful place. But this is the second year that this is going on.
Yes.
And obviously John talked about his perspective about everything. But I'm curious about your perspective, how you got dragged into the whole thing and where you're at now today. So how did John drag you into the Lifted Project to begin with?
So John Krupa, the producer of Choices of Rock Opera, and I went up to do a podcast with him. And after we got talking, when we were done, he talked to me about it. And I'm like, I'm in. Boy, did I want to take that back. I'm in. And before I knew it, there I was corralling, 50 musicians and just, a band and putting the show together.
And of course, the craziness of being in that airport.
Oh my God, the crazy of being in that airport. And then let's add that I am the paper queen, which he'll tell you of lists and things. And I like things done in a certain way. So, I'm very meticulous with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, I looked at him and said, so what do you think? He said, right on time, boss. And then the second one, he actually, I'm sure he probably touched on this, but he had sent me a text and he said, I want to do Lifted Project 2, but I will not do it without you. And I said, I'm in.
Yeah, after all the craziness, you're in again.
I said, absolutely, because John is... he's
a firecracker.
I was trying to think of a nice word. Firecracker is perfect for him.
Firecracker's still nice.
We absolutely love him, and I'm his calm.
Yes.
So I keep him calm, and he looks at me and goes, "Are we good?" And I go, "Yep, we're good. I got you. I got you." And then I hand him 75 lists.
There you go. You're the anchor of it all.
I'm the anchor of the Lifted Project, as I say.
It's crazy because that was actually the first time that we met in person.
Yes.
Because we were introduced through Tigman, through WPDH. Right. But it was just crazy because John hit me up the day before. Yes, John mentioned this. He thought it was the Saturday. I thought it was the Friday. I double-checked it was the Saturday. He was right. Damn it. But
when he's like that.
I hate when he's right. But so I come in late because, I wasn't expecting to be there in the first place.
Right.
And I see you and it was like one of those moments thank God I saw you because I didn't know what the hell I was going to do.
Well, I again thank you because you wrote a wonderful article for me.
Well, thank you.
On John Regan being honored at Choices of Rock Opera in Mamaroneck. So I thank you again for that.
Absolutely.
And that was our first meeting that you wrote that beautiful, beautiful homage to him, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's only right with all the work that he has done in the area and then just the music scene in the area in general. That was what I was there to do at the radio station.
Yes.
Whether the radio station appreciated me doing all that stuff at the time, but there's a reason why we have this show, and I'm not over there right now.
Right.
But,
and Tig was out, so
Yeah.
Tig wanted to do it, and I was so blessed to have met you. And then
Yeah.
we got to meet in person
Yeah.
at the Lifted Project, and that was great.
Absolutely. Love Tig. By the way, Tig, he is currently nominated for Best Local DJ on Hudson Valley Best.
Vote, vote, vote.
And then John is also nominated for Best Local Podcast for the Home From Here project.
Vote, vote.
Podcast. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So definitely check those guys out if you haven't yet already. Love both of them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so as you were saying with John Krupa, of course, and with Choices, I guess we can segue into that right now as well.
Absolutely.
So you are a part of this, I believe specifically for hair and costume design, right?
In the beginning, yes.
But I'm sure you've taken on
Yes.
plenty more after that. Could you explain, well, before we get into your role with it, can you explain what Choices is, what it is
Sure.
as a musical?
Sure. Choices, a rock opera, is about an 80s rock star that has a choice to make whether he chooses the love of his life or his career. And his journey of how he weaves in and out and what happens to him.
Yeah.
So when I met John Krupa 3.5 years ago in my salon, as a matter of fact, he had said, "Oh, I'm working on a rock opera." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And in Karen fashion, she says, "Oh, I'm in," which, holy moly. And I started on hair and makeup and wigs and costumes and all of that. And now I have actually branched into some producing with him.
Yeah.
And again, with the late John Regan, we were all things 80s. So when you come to the theater and you look at that stage, everything is of 1985, 1986, which I was roaming the Cat Club and
Yep.
Limelight and Old Bond Street and all those crazy places. And John Krupa and I actually at one point said, "Hey, maybe I was standing next to you in one of the bars."
Could have been.
Because we ran in the same circle. But I am happy to say that through everything, we have the incredible Mig Aissa is our lead. He was in Rock of Ages on Broadway.
Incredible.
And
You could tell it from his
the man
voice.
is just a master. He plays in Robert Fuso's Soul System, and he does Queen, and he's just amazing. But we are Off-Broadway bound.
That's amazing. Absolutely phenomenal because you guys were doing a run there at the time when I did that article. That was in Westchester. Remind me which...
Emmeline. It was the Emmeline
Yes,
Theater.
Absolutely. And of course, that's a great theater in its own right.
Absolutely.
But now to be, off-Broadway there in the city, that's incredible to be able to get that kind of experience.
Absolutely. So our producer, Rashad Chambers, has taken on the show. We are actually almost up to table read.
Wow.
So I am thankful and blessed and such, just being a part of that. And I've literally watched with John Krupa, too many Johns in my life.
I was going to say,
too many Johns in my life.
I think I screwed up before and I said the wrong John. It was like,
Yeah.
there's John Tig, John
John
Burton, John
Krupa, and
John Regan.
John
Just
Regan.
too many Johns.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a lot of Johns in my life.
Connor Michael, John Walsh.
Yeah, John. But so we've actually I've watched it from start to script after script after script. We actually have somebody in California, in Hollywood, looking at it to produce it.
Wow.
So it's a lot of work and a lot of ever changing, as you know, in the radio business and what you do.
Yeah.
Everything changes every day.
Yeah.
But it is quite the rush, to be able to do all of this. I'm very, very blessed. Like you said, you want to be there.
Yes.
I'll be looking at you going, we made it. Remember when we did this and said, and here we are,
It just goes to show what can happen with the grassroots movement.
Absolutely.
So many people think of the final outcome. Take Hamilton, for instance. Everybody knows it as the mega hit that it is today, but 10, 15 years ago, did you know it was being workshopped as a one-act show over at Marist?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that because, when we do these shows, there were workshops.
Yeah.
So, we've done 3 shows, and with Carrie, we were going to workshop it for our New York producer to come up and look at the changes.
Yeah.
Our band is phenomenal. Just phenomenal.
I'm sure.
Phenomenal.
So how many people from that original run are continuing on with this?
Probably the band stays, there's probably a good 15, 20 of us that are still involved.
That's significant.
All the way up, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't have to give names if it's
Yeah,
still like
no. Yeah, it's still, again, going to table read. Meg is going to table read, and some other people. It should be interesting. We are actually casting a lovely young lady that I know that was just in a production at Dutchess Community College.
Oh, cool.
She was in The Lightning Thief.
Oh, sweet.
And she is an amazing, amazing talent. Her name is Gianna, and I am very hoping that she goes on, which would be great.
That would be sick. And also just like here, all these Hudson Valley ties, and to be able to go off Broadway now and to highlight everything and everyone that has been working so hard in this area. I think that's cool because the one thing about Broadway, people from all over the place want to be on Broadway. Absolutely. But then, when you have people like here in the Hudson Valley, it's like, we're so close. We can taste it. We can.
Oh, yeah.
And just to be able to like work our way south, it's such a beautiful feeling.
You were talking about, Hamilton. It takes between 5 to 10 years to workshop a show to actually make it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's the point that I was making. The fact that, it was a one-act show over at Marist, and nobody knew what the heck that was at the time. It's like, oh, Hamilton. Which founding fathers this one again?
So was that only Lin-Manuel?
No, so it was crazy. Yeah, so it just goes to show it's like the process of it all. And
Absolutely.
I'm really proud of the process that you guys are going through and making and all that. So obviously you got the table read coming up. You have things being locked down. You're making it to that next level. Is there anything else specifically about the process that you're really proud of or excited for, or you kind of want to share to the public out there to be like, hey, this is part of the process?
Like Lifted Project and Choices, it's the people. It's not giving up. It's having that passion to all believe in the greater of the good or of the project. And you have to be able to collaborate with people.
Yeah.
You have to be able to, as I've said with the Lifted Project, which, when you corral that many musicians in one room, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, Karen runs a tight ship, and the egos are left at the door. And we have some of the greatest, finest musicians in the Hudson Valley that are in the Lifted Project.
Yeah. Same
Same thing with the actors in Choices. It's a collaboration, so nobody says, oh, you didn't sing that right. It's, oh, why don't you try this? And I think that's the most important thing in any journey, be it My Salon, be it the Lifted Project, be it Choices of Rock Opera. It's that collaboration and that willingness to learn and grow and work together to make that project amazing.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, Karen. And knowing the things that you've been a part of, I got to say, whatever you touch turns to gold. So I'm excited about it all for you. I think we ought to let everybody know how they can find everything, of course. So with Locks That Rock, where can they find you?
Locks That Rock, www.locksthatrock.com, 1552 Route 9 in Wappinger Falls.
I was just about to say, address
Choices
as well.
of Rock Opera, www.choicesofrockopera.com. You can look us up. You can also go to our Facebook pages and check out some of the material, as you have done on YouTube. Go on YouTube and put in Choices of Rock Opera. You can see the amazing talent of Mig Aissa and the rest of the cast.
The Instagram's good, too. There was a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that I saw.
We did a lot of video footage on that, making choices, which Artie Dillon, who is an amazing guitar player, look his name up. He is quite the amazing man. He did all that footage, and it was pretty kind of very cool. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was kind of cool. And as I just like to tell you all, Connor knows I don't like to be in the, up in the forefront.
This is a lot for you to be on camera right now.
I am the behind the lines kind of girl. I make the magic happen in the back, and I like it that way.
Absolutely.
But I thank you so much for all of this.
Of course. And the last thing, the Lifted Project, April 6th, Center for Performing Arts at Rhinebeck.
Yes.
It can go
Doors,
to
12:30.
Yes.
Show starts 1:15, so make sure you're there 12:30. Come on in. Please see all of our nonprofits. Make sure that you give, make sure you support Hudson River Housing, James Warriors, Thank, and Earth Angels.
Yes, there you go.
They are amazing nonprofits. Every year we change the nonprofits, so if you're interested in getting in our Lifted Project, please see, which John is it? John Burton.
Jingleheimer Schmidt. John Jingleheimer Schmidt. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Too many Johns, Jesus.
Yeah, too many Johns.
Yeah, no, I got confused myself. I'm pretty sure I'll look back in editing and it's like, oh, I said the wrong John. I'm sure of it. But again, Karen, thank you for all that. And of course, links and information will be in the description of this episode, so you don't have to hunt very far. You'll have everything nice and neat and tidy, so you don't have to worry about it. You pretty much summed it up really, really well, what you were saying about the community and collaboration. But before we completely wrap this up, do you have any last little nugget you want to leave for the Walsh Wednesday audience?
Support. I mean, come out and support all of our charities. Come out. If there's something you can do, do it. Be a part of your community, be it Lifted Project, be it Food Stock, you know, be it, anything that you can give and take care of each other, because in these trying times now, Locks That Rock, we always open up our doors to anybody who needs, when it's cold, a warm place to stay, a cup of coffee, you're having a bad day, come sit, read your book. I was always taught to give and be kind. Yeah. So I think, it's very important in our journey of our lives to, take time and give back and be kind to each other.
And that's what I see you doing all the time. So
thank you so much. I know you are. He is one of my great supporters. And I thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate you being here. I'm Connor.
I'm Karen.
And as always, we're glad we get to
spend some time.
Hey there, I'm the ad ref, and I'm calling a timeout on today's episode to tell you about our sponsors. First of all, let's throw it to Philomena in the booth. Philomena?
Thanks, Connor. I'm Philomena Finelli, CEO of Impact PR and Communications and a media maven, which is a fancy way of saying that my team and I help companies get in the news, transform leaders into thought leaders, and cut through the clutter with messaging that matters. And we do it all with a smile. Our agency was named the Woman-Owned Small Business of the Year for 2024 by the Metro New York District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration, and we received the Gold Stevie Award for Women-Run Workplace of the Year, which is an international recognition. But it's not about the awards, it's about the personal interactions. We at Impact PR and Communications pride ourselves on crafting meaningful, results-driven public relations campaigns that are tailored to meet and exceed our clients' goals. If you want to learn more and talk to my team and I, visit prwithimpact.com and let us know that you found out about us from Walsh Wednesday. Now back to you, Ad Ref.
Thanks, Philomena. Now it's time to throw it over to a very handsome and, might I say, stylish young man. The Walsh Wednesday merch store is officially open. Now you can have my face on your body. That didn't come out right. When you visit the Walsh Wednesday merch store, you can select from hats, t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, and more. By purchasing some Walsh Wednesday merchandise, you're not only supporting this program, but you're also supporting the local arts and organizations that are featured. Just visit cmjwentertainment.com/shop-merch and use promo code REVIVAL for 20% off. All links are in the description. I decided to work with Teespring for my merch store because, well, I was already buying from them. They have comfortable and durable products, and their printing is clear and reliable. One of my favorite hoodies is from my friend's Teespring collection, Offbeat Threads. To learn how to start your own online collection, visit teespring.com. And of course, I hope you get to spend some time at the Walsh Wednesday merch store. Thanks, guys. All right, that's enough of me. Time to get the show back on the road. Hey there, welcome back to Walsh Wednesday. As always, I'm Connor Walsh, and I'm so happy to be speaking to these three guys because these are my brothers right here. We lived together throughout college. Mike, I lived with for 3 years. Nick, I lived with for 2 years. Technically, Isaiah, we only lived together the 1 year, but technically it felt like 2 years since you were always over at alumni all the time. They are all a part of another podcast that I do. I know. Can you believe it? It's not just Walsh Wednesday. But there's this other podcast we do, Room 215, and it is so good because we're talking about our time at the College of St. Rose. Rest in peace. It just closed this last year. And trying to help people out through that closure, but then also help people who are going into college. So without further ado, with us today, we have Nick Rivera, Isaiah Vallejos, and Mike Trageser.
Hey, thank you for having us on, Con.
Absolutely. So, believe it or not, this is Isaiah and Mike's first time ever on a Walsh Wednesday, which is really hard to believe. I'm surprised that that's happened. Isaiah, he was the first person that I had on for another program I did, St. Rose Rocks. And Mike, we did a lot of video and audio work together over the years, but somehow never landed on Walsh Wednesday, which is odd. And then Nick, Believe it or not, this is your third time. This is your third time on. You were on for the Pie to the Face episode. We got a lot of pies to the face. You were on for the reflective series during the pandemic, and here you are right now. But now we're all here to be talking about Room 215. Now, of course, Room 215 was the room that we all shared together in Centennial there at St. Rose. And it was really a great time. And we were all brothers from well beyond that point anyway. So it was just great that we finally got together, all be in the same place at the same time before, the pandemic and the world shut down. With all that being said, I know I gave an overview, but why start Room 215? Where was everybody coming from when wanting to be able to tell their stories and do this podcast for everybody? Is there anybody who wants to start off first with that question?
I think I can kick this off here. Also, hi guys, I'm Nick. Good to see you all again. I think the biggest, so for context, right? Myself and Con went to Isaiah's graduation for his master's back in May of 24. And, we sat back, we talked, we kicked it. Nice Snoopy, by the way. Love it. Our biggest thing was, we're still brothers at the end of the day, but we didn't get that connection that we once had. There was a lot of life things that happened that really, kind of kept us apart. And just building that reconnection back again, like we were back in college, we were all our biggest support systems, right? So just keeping us here, just checking in on everyone. We record on a monthly basis on Room 215. So just being able to, I get so excited for those monthly check-ins, y'all. I really do.
Same.
That's been my biggest inspiration is getting that reconnection again.
We're just going to go down the line in the way I see you guys. So Isaiah, you're next in my line. Where'd you come from all this?
Well, I just want to say it's an honor to be on Walsh Wednesday finally, but also I don't know why I'm super nervous. We just recorded 215 and I just feel super nervous for this one. Everything. It's a whole new audience, I feel like, people are gonna be like, who the heck is this guy? Well, hello, my name's Isaiah, and I gotta say that my biggest inspiration for doing this, I guess it kind of leans in towards the same thing, is like with the pandemic and everything, I feel like there's just like such a weird time skip. For me at least, and everything, because like when we reconnected last year, it was just like, it was odd because I was like scared to message you guys and be like, hey, do you guys want to come up for this graduation? Because I knew I was gonna do it and everything, but I was like, oh man, like what if life like has gotten in the way? Because like I knew that I was like not behind in terms of like mentality, but like I feel like 2019 was just like not even a year ago, man. Like it's just like the way my brain chemistry had like altered during that time is like odd in terms of like wanting to like reconnect, but also like build community and like share our stories to inspire like a whole new generation of students and everything. That's just it, and like Nick, I look forward to this every month. Ren could attest to it. She knows how excited I get to record with y'all. That's why I'm trying to stay on top of like messaging and just tapping in and keeping in touch with each other. It hasn't been like a long time per se, but like it's been a long time since we all been able to like kind of be in the same room with each other. Yeah. So like it just feels absolutely nice to like really like check in with each other monthly, have great conversations, laugh it up, and like I said, it's just an honor to be on.
So happy to have everybody on. Now, Mike, you had a different perspective and different journey by the time you got onto Room 215 because as we talked about just the way everything worked, it was Nick, Isaiah, and I at the graduation. You were going through your own trials last year that made things very difficult, and we were out of contact more than we typically would. So then by the time like 2024 was wrapping up, we're reconnecting and we're getting you on this. Do you want to talk about any of the things that happened in the last year and leading up to it and what kind of led you to being on Room 215 again now?
Yeah, so my dad had gone through a really rough 5-year battle with cancer and passed away last January. Yeah, had just been dealing with that and also working at my big boy job, which takes up a lot of my time. And I had Connor come down for the funeral, and we were able to reconnect at that point.
Yeah.
And, he stayed over, and it was just like old times all over again. Flash forward to later on in the year when I found out that this was a thing, I was like, why didn't no one tell me that this podcast was
I said we were getting it off the ground, and we needed to get you on.
I probably forgot. But yeah.
I told you, because by the time I get to your place for Halloween, it's like, when are we getting you on, man?
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. But anyway, so I finally get on the podcast, and it was just a matter of finally getting to reconnect with these two, Nick and Isaiah.
Yeah, because it's been a second for you. Like, at least you and I have been in a little more contact. But yeah, it's been a while for you with Nick and Isaiah.
Yeah, and
It's been since COVID.
Yeah.
Since we last talked before the podcast.
Literally, the last time I saw you guys was like as I was leaving the apartment because I was the first one to bounce.
Jeez.
That was only gonna be 2 weeks.
Yeah, we all thought 2 weeks at the time. So with that being said, since, obviously we're not getting together in person for all this, we're all over the country. Well, Isaiah, you're out on the West Coast. Nick, Mike, and I were all on the East Coast, but we're still kind of all over the place over here. As everybody's been saying already, like everybody's excited to see each other. Y'all are looking forward to this every single week. But what was that like? Obviously, the first time it was just Nick, Isaiah, and I, and then we got Mike in. Technically, only one episode later. There's a lost episode in there. But the next episode, I would love to go down the line and hear from each of you guys, like what it was like to just get started with this and have these conversations and kind of almost feel like roommates again. Mike, can I start off with you this time, and we'll go back down the line?
Absolutely. It just felt, man, honestly, it felt like the years hadn't passed and we just picked up right where we left off. So it felt incredible just to reconnect and really pick things back up.
Like me and Nick we would be more in contact, and we would send reels to each other back and forth on Instagram. But with Mike, it was like kind of like no connection there, no point of contact. And so like me and Nick, we would occasionally tap into some games like Apex or like Call of Duty or Fortnite and now Marvel Rivals. But we would be able to connect in that way, and we would message each other, talk about wrestling and all that. But it wasn't like the same, because we used to have a lot more conversations. We used to sit down, like stay up till the who knows what hours of the night and have like conversations like this. So to reconnect and be able to speak on like very deep topics and kind of understand each other's perspectives with those and fill in the gaps with the times missing with each other, but also just kind of just having a good time and just having great laughs. Like I was saying, man, just like this last episode we recorded, we were just cracking up the entire time. It just, like how Mike put it, it's like no time is left. We just have a connection that's just undeniable. And I feel like at this point, it's just proof that, we're all kind of inseparable.
I would say over the span of those like 4 years or so, I was probably in the most contact with Nick at the time. And then probably it was Nick, then Mike, and then Isaiah. So it was like, we didn't reconnect really closely until last year again. And it's funny how each of us are saying we all kind of have different levels. Yes, you and I send our reels to each other, but when was the last time we had like a deep conversation prior to that?
Well, I remember because then we were still on campus for a couple of those years and everything. And whenever you were up, because then we went to a couple of your shows, I remember, but you came to our apartment.
Yes.
And everything. Yeah, and that's when you cut your hair too, and I was like, "Whoa, who is this guy?"
Yeah, that's when I had the bald head and everything. That was a time. That was a time. That was before therapy. That was a time.
It's a little Britney moment.
little bit of Britney and a little bit of I didn't have the right hair care treatment to help retain my hair at the time. We're working on that. This episode is brought to you by Keeps. No, keep it. Kidding. But
Hashtag
Nick,
not a sponsor.
I know. Go back to earlier in the episode. You'll hear from all the sponsors there. But Nick, again, you were probably the one that I was at least in contact with the most out of the three of you guys. But what was your perspective getting on and finally making this a thing and reconnecting again?
Oh, it was fantastic. I know we all touched on, we had these time gaps and everything. A lot of stuff has happened to all of our lives, and just filling each other's in like the brothers we are. Like it's fantastic to get that support system back, and everything just felt so natural. Nothing was awkward at any points. Nothing was, nothing felt forced. It just came so natural. Like we haven't missed a beat. I'm so grateful that we all have this support system right here in room 215, and I hope that we can, as a collective unit, share that with the audience that listens to us, and here's our stories and here's our yapping. So that's been the biggest thing for me, is everything's just felt so natural.
Amen. Absolutely. One thing I can say, it almost feels like a whole other therapy session, because we are getting to, it's kind of like group therapy in a way where we're all able to talk. We are really deep. I think we kind of break down a lot of stigmas of what necessarily masculinity is, because we do get emotional and we do talk about our feelings. And I think that is something really important. But also at the same time, we are absolute bros and we are saying some really filthy stuff and making each other laugh like crazy too. So we're all over the place. We don't, unlike Walsh Wednesday, where things are edited a little bit more and we try to keep it a little more GPG. Oh, we just go off the rails on Room 215. You're really going into our dorm room with us. But of course, one of the main things about Room 215 isn't just going back and looking at our experience, but it's about trying to help people through their experiences now, whether that's trying to navigate the job industry, trying to find jobs, trying to find the right career, and then people who are going into school and going into college. I think our show, Room 215, really caters to a lot of late Gen Alpha, the Gen Zers, and a little bit of the millennials too. I feel like there's a good, from 18 to 35, I feel like we really speak to that time period big time. So what is it that you hope that other people get out of listening to Room 215? Because again, at the end of the day, what we've all said about it, we want to be able to help people through it.
I feel like I kind of tend to touch up on this every single episode that we record of 215. That's building community, the importance of building community. We tapped into it with a couple of our friends also on campus back in the day, and how the importance of that community building and how that kind of shifts the perspective of the college experience too. Because a lot of people could go deep into social isolation, pandemic forced isolation in that perspective, but people could go into that social isolation, get depressed in college and everything, and feel like they're not making friends. But you kind of have to be the one to put your foot forward. We're all there to, well, we're not there anymore, but whoever's listening to this right now, if you are starting off in college or you're in college and you feel like you don't belong, there's like-minded people everywhere, and you just got to put your best foot forward to finding that community and just kind of breaking out of your shell, making those mature decisions as well.
And one thing's for sure, and no offense to you guys and all of us, including myself, we're all weirdos. If anything, we're a hodgepodge. We are a huge hodgepodge of guys. On paper, it really shouldn't make sense that we're friends, but we really are, and it's kind of crazy. Mike, what are you hoping that people get out of listening to Room 215?
I hope that people get some sage advice with a side of a laugh. That really sums up the show, I think.
That really does sum up the show. Damn, you got some really good one-liners today, Mike. You really do.
I know. I feel like I'm a big yapper here.
That's what I bring to the party, man.
Isaiah, I'm there with you, bro.
I'm a man of few words, but when I do open my mouth, it's usually either
more word
weird stuff.
Trick.
Good Office reference. Very good.
Yeah, no, I am Kevin in a nutshell, man.
Don't drop the chili, though, Mike. Please don't drop the chili.
Don't drop the chili.
Hey,
I'm
we're
so disappointed, man.
But, all right, so, Nick, that leaves you then. What are you hoping that people get out of Room 215?
There's a mantra on Room 215 that we love to live by. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give. I wear it like on my heart and on my sleeve. Be present, be consistent, have an open heart. Being present, making sure you're always there. You're not scrolling on your phone. You're not doing all this and that. Being present in what you are doing. Make sure you're being consistent with what you're doing, being consistent with your studies, being consistent with, if you're doing a workout routine, being consistent at your job, and always have an open heart. Don't go into anything with a closed mind, because opportunities don't come to those who close themselves out.
I think it's very easy in this day and age to close out your heart. And I think one problem that there's a lot of people having is they're more than happy to talk, but they're not necessarily willing to listen or willing to learn.
For sure.
And there's a lot of that going on. So keep your heart open, keep your mind open, keep your ears open, because the moment that you think that you have nothing to learn, whether that is on a personal standpoint, an educational standpoint, a political standpoint, whatever, the moment you think you have nothing more to learn is the moment that you are closing the doors and you're screwing yourself over. So honestly, yes, be present, be consistent, and keep an open heart. Fantastic mantra. And of course, I'm going to throw it back to you, Nick, since you are the producer and editor of Room 215. Thank you for all the work that you do on that, of course. Where can people find Room 215? Where can they see all of our beautiful faces for that?
So we do have our own solo YouTube channel. Link will be in the description, Room 215 Pod, at Room 215 Podcast over on YouTube. We are also on wherever you get your music and podcasts from, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon, all of that fun stuff. Make sure you head on over there, give it a laugh, give it a listen. All links will be in the description below. Oh my God. I have the YouTube frame of mind right now. Yeah. Links will be posted somewhere.
In the description. It's still in the description. You can do that. I do that all with the cast stuffs. Yeah. It's this description. In the description
below.
See, I handle the podcast side. Nick handles the YouTube side. He pretty much is like, all right, here's the audio file. Put this up there. And it's like, I got you, dude. And it's the same thing, man. It's the same thing. I just copy and paste what you say. But guys,
I love it.
See, this is just the hilarity and the we pretty much are just sharing one brain cell most of the time for all those episodes, which is a lot of fun. But again, guys, thank you so much for being on this episode of Walsh Wednesday. We'll have the links for Room 215 below in the description of this episode. Definitely check it out. We have a lot of fun over there, and I think you can learn a lot from our conversations, just as you learn here on Walsh Wednesday, just kind of in a different way, though. A lot more through anecdotes and a lot of fun. So I think that's great. I'm Connor.
I'm Nick.
I'm Isaiah.
I'm Mike.
And as always, we're glad we get to
Spend some time.
Hey there, and welcome back to Walsh Wednesday. Got a great episode for you guys today, and I'm really happy to have my long time, oh my God, it's probably over a decade now we've known each other.
Since freshman year of high school.
Freshman year, yeah,
oh,
that'll
God,
do
it's
it.
been like 13 years.
13 years.
Oh, God.
I know, that's kind of, we're starting this off on a depressing note, but don't worry, it gets better from here.
Does it?
With me, going to Kansas State University, one of my longtime best friends, and resident ginger, Harvey Burns. Harvey, how are you?
Can you really call me a ginger anymore? I don't have hair.
You got the beard.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's still red.
Yeah, some parts, yeah.
Some parts. We won't go further than that. But it's good to have you back in the state, bud. I know you're going to be shipping back out to Kansas. I'm going to miss you, and I know I gotta make a trip out one of these days for sure.
Eventually, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to come out there. But one thing's for sure, though, you had a very interesting trajectory when it came to schooling, your passions and all that. And definitely not something that at least is considered the norm by, social media standards, by conventional standards. And I think a lot of your educational journey post-high school is something that a lot of people need to hear, especially in a post-pandemic world. Hence why we're here having this conversation. And honestly, the route that you've taken, I think, is very inspirational just in general. It's like I give you a lot of kudos to what you're doing. So let's kind of like bring it back to the high school days and everything. School or traditional schooling was not typically your thing, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
I was the one who I would skate by with the bare minimum because I didn't want to put in any extra kind of effort.
Yeah. Now, what would you say that you did put your effort into, like, back in high school?
Back in high school, it was a lot of business classes, actually. I remember at FDR, I was doing a lot of Schimmelfennings classes, like the business law classes. I think I took, like, the intro to basic computer programming class, which I did not enjoy at all, and I still don't enjoy. But
it's good to know, though, these days, but I understand.
Yeah. Like, basic accounting classes, any of the business classes that FDR offered, I was taking them, mainly because at that time I was full set on the idea that I was going to go into school and I was going to go into accounting, at least for like my freshman, sophomore year. Once my junior year hit, I think it was roughly right around then, I was really toying with the idea of going into military. I had taken my ASVAB, I had done everything I needed to enlist. I was set to do 25 Sierra, which is satellite communication and repair, which would have been fantastic for me because I do actually enjoy working on a lot of the hardware side for computers, having multiple PCs and everything like that. It's always a lot of fun for me to actually build them. But it was just I don't know if it was at the time and like right around when we were graduating, if it was the military was allowed to be more selective because they had already reached said quotas. But I told them I had a concussion from sophomore year of high school from lacrosse, and pretty much every branch just shook my hand and said, "Have a nice day." So I don't know if that was just 2016. I don't know if that was just my recruiters that I had talked to or what, but it seemed like they were pretty much telling me military ain't an option for you, which is kind of funny because I think like recently they just upped the maximum enlistment age up to like 35 or something. I know they increased the max recruitment age. I just don't remember to what age, but I know it is like shockingly large or shockingly high for what I anticipated.
Yeah, no, understandable. And what you're saying about, you're very hands-on with a lot of the things that you do, and you are much more on the hardware side than you are on the software side. I remember when I was trying to help you like reformat those discs there, and we were having such a hard day. Could we ask you to like build something from scratch with the tools and the hardware? Easy peasy.
That's just adult Legos, man.
Essentially, oh my God, yes. Building computers is like adult Legos at that point.
Yeah.
But even though there are adult Legos, and there's a lot of great Lego sets, which I do love, by the way. Lego, if you're listening, sponsor. But I just think that's interesting. So yeah, by the time like high school ended and all that, and I was shipping on out to college along with a lot of our friends, you decided not to. And I think your decision not to came from a very mature place. Do you want to talk about like where that came from at the time?
So at the time, I understood. Like I was skating by in high school. I was doing the bare minimum. At that point, I was like, if I'm going to go to school, I'm going to pay for college education or anything like that. Depending on which school you go to, it can rack up to like $30,000 a semester.
Easily.
Now, granted, that's like the really high-end expensive schools, but
that was the really high expensive schools back then. They're more like 50, 60 now.
Don't get me started on student loans.
I know. I'm still paying them. I'm paying them right now.
But I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'd rather, A, have as much of it down and set aside and ready to go as I can, like, at least money-wise. Or B, I want to make sure that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make sure I'm able to put my all into it and not just the 70's good enough for me, C's get degrees kind of thing. So I took 4 or 5 years off from school. At that point, I ended up working in a warehouse for a little bit. Actually, that whole 5 years roughly. Yeah. I worked at McAllister's Transportation, which I think is now McAllister's Global. I'm not sure what they rebranded their name to, but they rebranded it like halfway through me working there. We mainly dealt with Solar Edge, their inverters, their optimizers, and stuff like that. Just their smaller parts, essentially. And I worked in their RMA department. So if we would get an order come in for, let's say, one inverter. I would go grab one inverter, put it in a box, slap a UPS sticker or a FedEx sticker on it, and put a return label in there so that way they could send us their junk one. We would send them their new one. That's all it really was doing. And we were getting anywhere between like 20 orders a day up to, I think the max I ever saw was like 360.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Later on, like right before I left, it was getting really busy. Solar Edge itself was growing massively. So it was one of those that it was kind of hard to keep up with. 2019, roughly, the fall of 2019, I wound up going to Dutchess Community, mainly so that way I could get a lot of the general education courses and the courses that I didn't have that were requirements for a lot of the classes I needed to take. Like I didn't do pre-calc or anything like that. So to do calculus at DCC, I needed to take pre-calc. So I needed to take that. Just get the random English courses and everything like that out of the way. Part of me wishes I didn't, because Kansas State did not accept a large portion of my credits.
Yeah.
So that sucked, but it was really interesting because fall of 2019 was perfectly fine.
Yep.
Then, that spring semester of 2020, that's when everything went right down the toilet.
Going back to school during that time, like I was graduating at that time.
Yeah.
And if you went to school in the normal route, you could have potentially been graduating at that time. But also at the same time, and we've talked about this before, you don't think you would have nearly gotten half the experience that you would have going right out of high school rather than waiting a while.
Besides the fact that I would have probably done accounting like I was planning on doing in high school and everything like that, which I know now if I did that, I would hate my life. I just don't enjoy sitting there being stationary for a whole day.
Again, you're a hands-on dude.
Yeah, I like walking around, or even if it's just walking around, I enjoy that and actually being able to actually see how things work.
Yeah.
So besides the fact that if I had gone right out of high school, I would have done accounting and hated my life. I probably would have made decent money, but I would have hated every minute of working. It's also the fact that I would have been graduating right around that time, and
Yeah.
it would have been in some parts nice, in some parts kind of not nice, because it would have been nice if I could have graduated before COVID hit. But
Yeah.
I know myself, I would not have done everything to get myself to graduate early. I would have said, what's the typical path? That's what I plan on taking.
Well, you even told me a couple times that you wouldn't be even sure if you would have stayed the whole time, if you wouldn't have even flunked out potentially with just kind of the mentality you had back then.
Oh yeah, the C's get degrees idea, well, yes, it is true. It doesn't mean that you understand the whole concept of whatever you are learning. So, and at least now with taking mechanical engineering courses, a lot of these courses play off the prior one. So I had just taken in the spring semester of 2024, I had taken a course called statics, which is essentially forces acting on said object in in just a capture moment of time. Then I moved into dynamics and mechanical properties and materials. And both of those courses rely heavily on statics. So if I had just done the C's get degrees, I don't care how it's 70 is the bare minimum, that's what I'm aiming for, more than likely I probably wouldn't have understood a lot of what was going on. So going into dynamics and mecha materials, I would have been completely confused, or I would have been really far behind trying to catch up.
Yeah. And as you said, and something we neglected to talk about before, you're doing mechanical engineering now, which again, great.
Totally different than accounting.
Definitely different, but I think really works out for you because it does give you the opportunity of working with your hands, moving around, and physically making something and getting a chance to do that. And I think that's great. You took that leap. You did Dutchess Community College, and then you took another huge leap. You could have found a school closer nearby. You could have found a state school. You did find a state school just on the other side of the country. Well, not completely, but close.
Roughly 2 hours from the geographical center of the continental 48.
Love it. So Kansas State University, you wanted to pursue your education over there. At this time, how old were you?
When I was looking at schools, I think I was 22, 23.
Okay.
When I first enrolled, I think I was 23 years old because it was 3 years ago from 2020. So it would have been 2021. So yeah, I would have been 23 turning 24 that year.
Which isn't very old still, but in college standards...
That's roughly when you're graduating.
Exactly.
And I was going in as a freshman.
You look like a senior citizen at that point. And it's an odd vibe. And I went to college with people who were coming back later, and to me, it was like, oh, you're just a part of the class. It didn't bother me, or it wasn't weird to me. It was like, okay, you're just a part of this. But they always spoke that they felt it was very weird and felt it was a very odd transition. And they said it was a very humbling experience. What would you say to that?
I can definitely agree with the very weird part. Going to school, even if it's only like 4 or 5 years apart from like being 18, 19 years old, it's still enough of a difference that I felt like there was almost a culture difference between us. Besides the fact that it's Kansas to New York and there's that culture difference to begin with, just age-wise. Like I wasn't that much older than these people, and there are some things that I just didn't understand at all. Partly because I'm not addicted to my phone or anything, just keeping up with everything on social media. But like, there's a lot of it where I was just like, sure, yeah, I remember that. Just different experiences. Like with New York, they went to Common Core like right after we graduated.
Right after us, absolutely.
If somebody tried, I looked over some of like the Common Core stuff like a few years back, and it was just, to me, it was just completely weird.
It looks like another language. Some of the stuff.
Like some of the way that they like try to describe math. Like, oh yeah, what's 8 plus 8? Oh, you break that 1 8 down minus 2, so that way it's 2, 6, and 8. So that way it's 8 plus 2 plus 6. The only thing I could think of is like, this is like the ADHD version of math. Like,
that's a good way to put it.
Like that's the only way I could describe it.
There's also a really funny story, not so much about college, but about just the difference between East Coast and the Midwest. I don't know if you remember telling me the story.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, so about the salutations and the hellos and all that. Would you want to get into that for us?
So, difference between Midwest and upstate New York is usually when you walk by somebody, you say, hey, like, how's it going? It's literally just a hi, and you just keep minding your business and keep walking. You do not care about anything else that's going on. I had people asking me, like, hey, how's it going? I was like, yeah, doing all right. How about you? And, like, as I keep walking, hey, how's it going? Like, completely ignoring what they were saying, essentially. I had a couple of people I was classmates with look at me and go, why are you being so rude to these people? And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, they're asking how you are. And I'm like, y'all care about that? Like, what?
I love that. I was like, you actually are asking? Y'all want to know?
Now, in reality, they just want to hear, I'm doing good. How about you? So that way they can say they're doing good. But
That's more than, it's just simply being like, hey, what's up? That's just as simple as hello here.
yeah,
Like, it's not being rude. In
it's
New York
acknowledging your
standards,
presence, essentially. It's all it really is.
In New York standards, that's just the same as hi. You don't expect a real answer here in New York, so that's a big culture difference. But I have told that story to people on so many occasions.
It's just so shocking.
I just think that's hilarious. But again, so here you are. You're going to classes with people 5 years younger than you, potentially some closer, of course. But that is to some a very scary thing. But at least in the perspective that I got from you, you took it in stride. What was this like going back for you? What was your internal feelings?
It was definitely weird. It was very much, I thought when I was walking in, I was going to be the oldest in whatever room I was in. Even since being there, I only know of 2 people who are older than I am.
Okay.
Who are even in the same degree path as I am, let alone the entire course and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it was very shocking in that sense, where it was, I had to understand, like, okay, how do I talk to people again, for lack of better words?
Especially after the pandemic too, where you're isolated.
Oh yeah. It was shocking because I was trying to figure out how to talk to people. I had to reteach myself essentially how to be a person, not only just because of different culture, but also because these are people who are 5 years younger than me. I haven't really had for lack of better words, I haven't had to deal with people who are 5 years younger than me. A lot of the people I talked to, like that I was dealing with at my warehouse, it was all people who were either 2 to 3 years older than me up to like 40 years older than me. So none of it was, hey, I need to teach this now freshly 18-year-old how to work, and I need to figure out how to talk to him and be able to have a conversation with him. Yeah. It was very touch and go. There are some people who I guarantee look at me and go, that guy is weird. Stay away from him.
No, but that's fair. And as you said, just the difference between like 23 and 18, especially in a post-pandemic world and a very online world, that can feel so distant.
I would argue the difference between 23 to 21 is the same difference between 23 and 28.
Wow.
It is just that kind of, in those formative years, between 18 to 25, I'll say. Yeah. That is where I feel like a lot of people are growing the most. A lot of times because, like, typical college idea, you're finally moving out of school. You're on your own for the first time. You kind of don't have your parents to kind of hold your hand through everything. Yeah. You're kind of learning, like, okay, well, I'm on my own. I don't know if I really like... let's say fettuccine Alfredo. I don't know if I just don't like fettuccine Alfredo, if I only like mom's fettuccine Alfredo kind of idea. You're really getting that idea of who am I as a person. And going in a little bit older, I already had that basic idea of, okay, this is kind of who I am. I'm going to school so that way I can kind of narrow down on these ideas and get a better idea of what's going on with them. Yeah. Kind of not the case. Even just being at the school, I've learned essentially what I really don't like and what I do like, at least from a job perspective. That's good. A couple years back, I did an internship at Great Plains Manufacturing, a subsidiary of Kubota. I did a manufacturing internship there. I had redone a whole assembly line. They wanted to increase output, and it was the introduction of a new product going through that assembly line. I didn't mind the people I worked with. I actually enjoyed the people I worked with. I hated the idea of going through and doing manufacturing engineering. I felt like a lot of it was babysitting.
Oh, interesting.
And the other part of what was my actual job, it was a lot of, hey, look over these time studies, these videos, figure out how long it takes said person to do said thing, write down how long it takes, and then essentially have to lay out a game plan for, okay, this person's going to do these 3 things. It should take them X long. They were trying to do lean manufacturing, which is perfectly fine. That's actually a good idea and everything. It's just, I hated being the one to have to go through it because a lot of my days, there was 3 weeks straight that I just spent sitting at a computer, just watching videos of watching 3 people build these same 3 snowblowers. Each one took a week just to get through each one snowblower for me to watch the videos, record the times, and start to lay out a game plan. It was just so, to me, it was obnoxious. I hated it. I wanted to actually walk around. I wanted to do something.
Yeah.
But for 3 weeks, all I could do was sit down at my desk, my makeshift desk, and
Wasn't even a real
watch.
desk.
It was, so they had a cubicle that had 2 U-shaped desks for
Okay.
the 2 engineers they were supposed to have. On the backside, they did connect. So I sat right in between where the 2 tables connected.
Oh, no.
And of course,
That's uncomfortable.
oh yeah, so I had right in between my legs at all times, I had 2 posts for each table. And of course, because it was my luck, these tables did not line up with each other. One was 1 inch higher than the other one.
No.
It was, granted, that is like the smallest thing to complain about, but my gosh.
No, it's
that
like that's your
sucked.
workstation. That's your
That
workstation. That
sucked.
sucks. So that's good though that you were able to get that clarity of the kind of position that you want. I'm sure that you walked into it thinking it was one thing, kind of got something different out of it, and it gave you a whole different perspective and appreciation for other positions, other jobs, and
Exactly.
greater understanding.
I think the problem is also because at least at that branch specifically, they had multiple engineers there. So it was kind of divvying up work, and for lack of better words, because I'm the intern, I'm getting the garbage work. I'm getting the busy time work.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucked, but is what it is. This summer when I have the internship at HF Rubbery, I'm really hoping that I'll be able to have a little bit more hands-on, and it's not going to be as much of, hey, guess what you're doing, buddy?
You're going to be in a corner with 2 uneven desks, and you're going to be watching this forever.
I hope not.
I hope not either, for your sake. So with that, with your mechanical engineering degree, what is the end goal? What do you hope to use it for?
So ideally, if all the stars align, everything works out exactly in my favor, I will be getting into some type of racing. Whether that is NASCAR, whether that is IndyCar, whether that is IMSA, Rallycross, any of the kinds of racing. I want to get in and I want to be, essentially I'd probably start out as race engineer or setup engineer of some kind. Ideally, long term, I would love to do crew chiefing, which is essentially, basically, I'm making our game plan for our team for said race.
Yep.
I'm going to spend a lot of time sitting on top of a pit box looking at a computer screen. Oh, it comes full circle, doesn't it?
You're sitting there, wait a second, that's ironic, but I'm pretty sure there'll be more to it than that, but
Yeah.
you would get to interact with the team. I know you love racing. I know you're big into all that,
Oh, yeah.
and I think that'd be good. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you did get some experience actually working on a race team, didn't
Yes. So not this November, but the past November 2023. I winded up going to Phoenix, Arizona, and I worked for a race team and was under Ryan Roulette Racing. It was their NASCAR ARCO West Series race. It was their finale. I got to go over the wall. I was part of a pit crew. I was a tire carrier, and technically over-the-wall mechanic. Technically. Nevertheless, I was able to actually take part in an official NASCAR event. It
Sick.
was really fun for me. I was able to get an idea of, okay, this is what it's like for taking the car off the trailer, getting it through tech inspection, getting it race ready, and what the actual events of the race are. I had headset, fire suit, helmet, all that kind of fun stuff. I had all that on. I'm pretty sure if you actually go back and you try and watch that race, I think we did okay. The car that we had was so bad, and we all knew it was bad from the beginning. Like, we started in the pits. Car next to us started their car. Fantastic sounding car. We started ours. It sounded like 3 octaves wrong. Like, just the sound was wrong. We were running, I believe it was an Ilmor engine, and the Ilmor mechanic, I guess you can call it, their rep that was there, they came over and they were like, I don't even think that's going to make it to the end of the race. I think it's going to blow up.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Which was... part of it is, corporate politics. They really want you to buy a new engine, so they're going to tell you it's going to blow up. And part of it is also, like, maybe he's legitimately being honest. Like,
Yeah.
you could hear the sound difference.
If you could
between
hear
them.
it, yeah.
It sounded like it was down a cylinder, which in a V8 naturally aspirated car, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Luckily, it didn't blow up. We finished a couple laps down. We had an issue with the throttle pedal. The screws on the firewall that held the throttle pedal bracket itself in, they had backed their way off completely. So Ryan was going around a turn, went to go get back on throttle, and all of a sudden there was no throttle. The pedal itself was like dangling in there essentially.
Ooh.
So
Yeah, that's rough too.
yeah, it was one of those that We don't know how it happened. They were speculating like they used that car at Bristol. Maybe it was backing itself out at Bristol. Nobody noticed, but no one had any idea. The idea was that he was going to use the earnings from that race wherever he finished, invest in a new car anyway. Yeah. Which I think he did that. I'm not exactly sure, but it was one of those that it was great for me to get that experience. I now have a Ryan Roulette crew shirt hanging up in my closet that has oil stains on it because I had to get under the car itself, and I had to put a engine seal on it, which, for lack of better words, is a small braided wire that goes through a bunch of the nuts, so that way they know, hey, you didn't tamper with this engine, because NASCAR has very strict regulations on what kind of engines they can run and what kind of specs you can run. Years ago, somebody got bounced from the race entirely for being, I think it was half a cubic inch over displacement. Oh. Yeah, it was...
That is strict.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Which, granted, that's not a whole lot in terms of power when you think about it. Half a cubic inch isn't going to get you a monstrous amount of power, but when you're all running that range of, let's say, I think at the time it was 950 horsepower. If somebody's getting 955, you might notice that. Yeah. So it was one of those...
It's iffy. It's on the line there. Understandable.
I mean, hey, you can download the whole ARCA Racing manual and rulebook if you really want to. It is 200 pages of just boring spec notes. Ask me how I know.
Probably gone through it before.
3 or 4 different times I have read it.
Good for you, though. But it just goes to show you the effort that you're putting in. And again, I think it's great, and I'm glad that you're having the experience to be able to do these things. Especially because you are rounding out your time there at Kansas State. You don't have too much longer left. You and your girlfriend, Cassie, shout out to Cassie. You guys have been able to make a foothold for you guys selves out there. Starting something new. Just with time, be wrapping up shortly. But to those who are really thinking of making that leap, whether solo or with a partner, you guys really made a big move.
Oh, yeah.
Completely far away from your family, not near any friends, completely starting, well, maybe not completely, but starting from scratch in a lot of different ways. And that is big for many individuals or couples out there, whether that's you have to move for your job, you have to move for your education, you have to move for your family. That's rough. What do you got to say to anybody who might be going through that transitional period themselves as somebody who's gone through it?
So if you are moving out with somebody else, so for me, I was moving out with Cassie. I had my girlfriend there with me, who I, for lack of better words, had to work with and get things done. If you don't already live with said person, it is going to be very rough. It's going to really dictate on how you care about each other or how much you care about each other. If it is, this person, you've lived with this person for a year, 2 years prior now, it'll be a little bit easier because you both have an understanding of they like the plate. When they're setting up a kitchen, let's say, they like the plates to the left of the sink while I like them to the right kind of thing. You can kind of just, let's just put them to the left, make things easy idea, or let's put them to the right, make it easy. It doesn't really matter either way, but there's going to be, if you're just moving into together for the first time, that might cause some arguments. Granted, I really hope plates don't cause an argument. But,
no, I get what you're saying, though, with that, yeah.
If you are moving out for your first time, though, this is your first time away from your parents, and you do get to choose where you're going, look into the surrounding area. Not only look into the typical things like, what's the crime rate around there, and what's the weather usually like around there. Look into things to do. Even if it is something stupid like, hey, there's a bowling league that they have every Thursday night at the bowling alley that's an hour or a mile away from my house. Go try it. What's the worst that happens? You don't like it? Shucks darn. Who cares? If it's one of those that, they have, at least for Kansas, we have the prairie, the Gonza. We're able to actually go walk around essentially what is a nature preserve. It's the same idea as the rail trails around here. Yep. It gives you a little bit of something to just go out and try. If you are fortunate enough to be able to go out to eat, try different restaurants. Be able to get an idea of this is kind of what it's going to taste like around here. This is the cuisine kind of idea. Just try a bunch of different things. Who knows? Maybe you'll land on something that you absolutely love. Maybe you'll figure out, nope, this sucks.
Yeah, because you might end up great deal on an apartment or a townhouse or a house somewhere, but the areas around it aren't to the standard you were hoping for. Somebody told me, it was go to the grocery store. Go to the grocery stores that are around you. It's that will make a difference. If possible, depending on wherever you're moving, test your commute. See what your commute would look like. So obviously, in the case of you with Kansas, probably a little more difficult figuring that out. But depending on where you're moving, those are definitely big things to think about, and especially what you said. I think that's big. So with you in your situation with Cassie, you guys did live together, but you also had the parental influence too, because during the pandemic, she moved in with you guys, right? After a little while.
So when she got furloughed, which is essentially laid off, but with guaranteed position once they open back up, she was kind of out of a job. She could take unemployment and everything, but it was kind of like she was paying for an apartment in Wappingers. We didn't really know how long this was going to take, because this was right when COVID hit. This was March that she got told this.
Yeah.
So it was very much like, we don't know if we're going to be out a month. We don't know if we're going to be out a year kind of idea. Yeah. So she had to tell her roommate at the time, which wound up telling her, like, hey, yeah, I've got to leave. I got furloughed. I got laid off. I can't afford the apartment. I hate to do this to you, but, like, good luck.
Yeah.
Because she was subleasing, so it's not like she had an actual lease that she signed or anything.
Okay, that's actually better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, she still held the security deposit for damages, apparently, which I don't... I'm not...
Iffy, we don't need to get to that.
Yeah, that's just...
That's personal.
I don't feel like dealing with the migraine of it.
Yeah.
But, so she had to move in with me and my parents. And granted, at the time, her ADHD was really bad and her anxiety was really bad about the whole situation. I don't blame her. Like, you just got furloughed. You have no idea what's going on with your job.
Yeah.
At that time, the whole world looked like it was kind of doomed.
Yeah.
It was kind of all up in the air. So there were a lot of arguments between us just because of stress and anxiety. Yeah. Luckily, we were able to work through those because, you know, she left bruises, but they were where no one could see. But yeah, it was very much in the idea of, we were able to work through them without any kind of major fights or anything like that. Yeah. And through that, we were able to realize, like, okay, well, this is how this person likes to live. This is how this person likes to sleep kind of idea. Yep. It's one of those that it's something that my grandfather told me when I was younger, and it kind of like really beat into my head. If you do plan on marrying someone or anything like that, try living with them for at minimum a year before proposing or anything like that.
It's actually a Scottish tradition.
Yeah.
It was for a long time. Burns, don't you guys have Scott in you?
Maybe, but it was on my mom's side. So Shook, which is very German, because originally it was von Shook.
Okay, so it was the other grandfather. Gotcha. Because I was going to say, is like, that was a very Scottish tradition to do that. And very smart, in my opinion.
Yeah, it gives you a chance to realize, like, okay, well, this is how this person likes to live. You may absolutely love that person when you go out on a date with them, but they could live like a slob, let's say, and absolutely hate it. Or they could be a neat freak, and you could be one of those, like, it's organized chaos, let's say. But they'll instantly freak out, essentially. Yeah. So it's good to get that idea of, this is how this person likes to live. Are we compatible this way? If we are, then perfect.
Yeah.
But if not, then we can kind of either try to, for lack of better words, fix each other into getting in a cohesive line, or...
Yeah. A lot of compromise.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of compromises had to happen, because, like, here it is. That's nerve-wracking on Cassie moving in, not just with you, but your family.
Yeah.
But then that's also big on your family, too, for being able to welcome their doors like that. That's also huge as well. But I'm sure there's the pros and cons of moving out on your own eventually. And what was that like for you and Cassie when you guys could say, it's like, this is our space?
Both good and bad, because, good because we're able to kind of, if I want to move a bookshelf somewhere, the only person I have to talk to about it is Cassie. I don't need to sit here and worry about, like, well, I wonder what my parents will think. Like, no, I don't have to worry about that. I want that there. Are you okay with that? Yeah. Cool. Let's move it. Mm-hmm. Perfect example is a couple months back, me and Cassie wanted a new TV. I wanted a new TV. By the way, if you have a Jeep Renegade, a 65-inch TV will fit perfectly if you just chop off your legs from the knees forward. Just get rid of them. You don't need them. But I decided I want a new TV. Cassie was very much in the idea of, we have like a 40-inch TV that she had from college. We don't need one. This is fine. It's doing everything we need. Why do you want a new TV? We don't need it. And I had the very much, like I was saying in the car ride over, I want it now syndrome. I want it. So I went out, I bought a 65-inch TV, had it wall mounted. Cassie came out from the kitchen, looked at it, was like, you're not getting rid of that. That's mine now. So it's now in our living room, which is what I wanted.
Hey, it works out in the end.
But
I'm sure the pros and cons, you guys are able to make something for yourselves now. And that's really cool. Again, definitely for time's sake, unfortunately, got to start wrapping up. But like those last little nuggets for anybody out there, like making to take that next leap, that next move, whether that is
going to school or holding off going to school. That's a big decision. Moving in, any of that, like based on your experience, since you have lived it and gone through this unconventional way of going through it, at least in Western society, any last word of advice for anybody?
Ask a bunch of questions. I know that sounds dumb, but even if you think it's a dumb question, it is not a dumb question. If you're looking at military, ask the recruiter the stupid questions that you think they'll laugh at you for.
Yep.
Who cares if they will? You have that question, it needs to be answered. If you're looking at colleges, ask the stupid questions of like, hey, what's your retention rate? Hey, how long does it usually take your graduates to get a degree? Hey, how long does it usually take after they get a degree to get a job? Ask those kinds of questions. If you're looking at doing said job, like for me, I was looking at mechanical engineering. I didn't know anybody who was a mechanical engineer or an engineer in general. Find somebody, even if you have to go on to random LinkedIn profiles, even if it is who you think is small time, like they don't care, they're not going to answer. Ask a bunch of questions. Just go through and ask. They'll be able to give you an idea of this is kind of what my workday is like. If you enjoy it, fantastic. If you don't, you didn't waste X amount of dollars to go to school to realize that you hate it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Ask questions. Be curious. That's what I always said on an old program I used to do. Stay curious, keep an open mind. Always said that all the time. So I love that. Harv, thanks so much for being here, and I'm going to hate to see you go back to Kansas, but I know you're doing great things out there. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course. No problem.
I'm Connor.
I'm Harvey.
And as always, we're glad we get to
Spend some time.
And that's a wrap on this week's episode. Big thank you to our guests this week, Karen Catalano, the Room 215 podcast, and Harvey Burns. And of course, big thank you to Impact PR and Communications, Teespring, Walsh Valuation, and IABO Board 114. Last but certainly not least, we got to give a big shout out to our Patreon member, Jenna Hess. But you know what? She's getting a little lonely. So how about you keep her company on the Walsh Wednesday Patreon? You can support this channel by becoming a Patreon member with memberships as low as $5 a month. With that, you can get behind-the-scenes content, your name featured in the credits of each episode, and access to the Spend Some Time chat. You can find that and more by scanning the QR code on your screen or by going to the links in the description. As always, I'm Connor Walsh, and I'm glad we get to spend some time.